My name is the archivist. The year is 2034. We believe history is a fixed text, a story written in stone and bone that we can read but never alter. But the files in this archive suggest that sometimes the past and present are not as separate as we believe. That an object can be a bridge, a paradox that whispers a warning from a time long dead. Today, we open a file that deconstructs such a paradox. Welcome back to the archive. This is file number 2301, the Etruscan imprint. The story begins in the rolling hills of Tuscany, at an archaeological dig site. A team led by the brilliant but controversial historian, Dr. Miles Corbin, made the discovery of a lifetime, a perfectly sealed, untouched Etruscan tomb, hidden for over 2.5 millennia. The air inside was still, the dust of ages undisturbed. In the center of the tomb lay the sarcophagus of a high priestess, her remains adorned with gold and precious stones. But it was what she held in her skeletal hand that made the world stop. Clutched in her fingers was a cheap, blue, plastic ballpoint pen. A common, mass-produced object you could buy in any office supply store. The scientific community erupted. It had to be a hoax, a prank of unimaginable complexity. But the tomb was sealed. Carbon dating confirmed the seal was 2,500 years old. The paradox was perfect. Dr. Corbin, a man who had staked his career on finding evidence of trans-temporal artifacts, was instantly vindicated and universally ridiculed. A day later, while being hounded by the media, he collapsed in his hotel room, dead from what the local authorities called a sudden, violent brain aneurysm. The impossible discovery now had a body count. The case landed on the desk of Isabelle Varga, now a senior consultant for Interpol's Historical Artifacts Division. The Italian authorities had ruled Corbin's death natural and were desperate to label the pen as a contamination, a modern object that had somehow slipped past their protocols. But Varga knew better. The pen wasn't a contamination. It was the murder weapon. She just had no idea how. She began by deconstructing the victim. Corbin was an obsessive, a genius who had ruined his reputation chasing ghosts. His notes were filled with theories of informational imprinting, the idea that objects could carry a psychic echo of their time. His phone records showed one frantic, final call, made just hours before he died, to a name Varga had not seen in years, Dr. Elias Vance. The forensic linguist, now living in quiet seclusion after his involvement in the Honest Confessions case. Varga found Vance in a small, book-filled cottage on the coast of Scotland. He was older, his eyes weary. "I told him not to touch it," was the first thing Vance said when Varga showed him a photo of the pen. "Some echoes are too loud." The visuals could shift here to a seemingly simple object being deconstructed, revealing immense complexity. At Varga's urging, Vance agreed to analyze the object. He was not interested in its plastic composition or its modern ink. He placed the pen under an atomic force microscope, focusing on its surface. "Every mass-produced object tells a story," he explained, his voice a low hum as he worked. "The machines that make them, the molds, the conveyor belts, they all leave microscopic imperfections, scratches, unique mechanical fingerprint. A language." For days, he scanned the pen's casing, translating the microscopic landscape of scratches into a string of binary code. It was a painstaking, obsessive process. Finally, he had it. A message, hidden in the manufacturing flaws of a simple plastic object. It was not a long message. It was a warning. The message read, "Hear the whisper. Silence the echo. It is not a tomb. It is a cage." "What does it mean?" Varga asked. "It means we are looking at the wrong mystery," Vance replied, his face grim. "The question is not how a modern pen got into an ancient tomb. The question is, what else is in that tomb with it?" Varga's team, using Vance's translation as justification, pushed the Italian authorities to perform a deep scan of the tomb. What they found, buried beneath a false floor under the sarcophagus, was a second chamber. And inside that chamber was another object, one that was not human. It was a large, smooth, obsidian sphere, pulsing with a faint, almost imperceptible energy, the source of the echo. The final piece of the puzzle came from the pen's manufacturing code. Vance traced it to a specific factory, to a specific production date 4 years ago. Varga investigated. On that exact date, a brilliant but unstable acoustical engineer named Thomas Finch, the son of the late composer, Adrian Finch, had died in a supposed accidental lab fire. Thomas was obsessed with his father's work and with the theories of Dr. Eris Thorne. He believed he had found a way to create a quantum entanglement between two objects, regardless of their position in space or time. The horrifying truth was finally clear. The pen was not a time traveler. It was an antenna. Thomas Finch, in the future, had somehow created a quantum link between the pen in his lab and the ancient alien sphere in the tomb. He had used this link to imprint his warning onto the pen's physical structure. He wasn't sending an object back in time. He was sending a message through time, using the entangled particles of two objects. Dr. Corbin, the archaeologist, didn't die of an aneurysm. His brain, already sensitive to the echoes of the past, was overwhelmed by the raw, powerful data stream coming from the pen. He had picked up a receiver for a message that was never meant for him, and it had literally torn his mind apart. The fire that killed Thomas Finch in the lab was no accident. He was silenced by the same people his father's research had exposed. But what was the echo? What was the cage? The final log from Thomas Finch's recovered hard drive gave the answer. The Obsidian Sphere was a precursor data archive, a library of an alien race. But it was also a prison. It contained the dormant consciousness of a single, ancient, and malevolent entity. The whisper was its dream, its psychic echo, which had been slowly leaking out for millennia, subtly influencing human history. Thomas had discovered that a powerful solar flare, predicted to hit Earth in the coming months, would give the sphere enough energy to fully awaken its prisoner, to break the cage. His desperate, fatal act of sending a message back in time was a warning. Varga now understood. The men who had hunted her before, the secret society, the descendants of the future tyrants from the cartographer's cipher file, they weren't trying to cause an apocalypse. They were trying to release their god. The archivist's voice returns for the conclusion. The file on the Etruscan imprint is now one of the most classified in this archive. The Obsidian Sphere was removed from the tomb and secured in a place that does not appear on any map. The warning had been received. This case deconstructs our most fundamental belief, that the past is silent. It suggests that history is not a static record, but a living, breathing echo, and that sometimes a whisper from a 2,500-year-old tomb can be a scream from a future that has yet to happen. The anatomy of this mystery was not about an object out of time, but a warning just in time.